Vecna's gaze deepens as he opens a magically sealed tome, its pages torn as if from repeated use. With a turn of the page, a haze of purple magic illuminates the room. Vecna turns his gaze as if speaking into the void, 1,000 whispered souls waiting to listen. Artifacts. Objects of immense power born from the ambitions of gods and mortals alike. They are the instruments through which fate is twisted and rewritten, sometimes by accident, sometimes by design. I have known them all, touched them, studied them, bent them to my will when I could, and suffered their consequences when I could not. The hand and eye of Vecna, my own shattered remnants, vessels of my essence, forever seeking hosts foolish enough to wield them. Crenshinibon, the sentient shard of crystal whose icy grip shapes kingdoms and topples empires. The Nether Scrolls, power unimaginable of a lost empire. The deck of many things, a gamble with destiny itself. And the Orbs of Dragonkind, whose essence were as diverse as the arrogant dragons themselves. It is this deck of many things that fascinates me most. For unlike the others, it is not bound by singular purpose or a twisted creator's will. It is chaos incarnate, a shuffle of fate, drawn from a stack of chance and misfortune. The first deck was not born of mortal hands. Its origin lies with Istus, the Greyhawk goddess of fate and destiny. She is a capricious entity, weaving the threads of existence with an apathy only the divine can afford. Yet even gods are not immune to mortal pleas. There was a woman, Asteria, who dared to confront Istus. A mortal, pleading for the life of a friend. Uriale was her name, a Medusa of cunning and quiet sorrow. Whatever bond existed between them, it was strong enough for Asteria to risk everything to save her. And so Istus gave her a choice, a gift and a curse. The first deck. Asteria drew from it, and Uriale was saved, but not without consequence. The divine nature of the deck ensured that it would not be contained. Like a virus, it spread, reflections of the original deck manifesting across the multiverse, each with subtle differences. On Toril, the ancient empire of Netheril crafted their own imperfect replicas. What began as a game, a deck of hazards, became something far more dangerous after Netheril's fall. The lingering magic steeped in those surviving decks, warping them into tools of fortune and ruin. And ruin, as you know, comes far more easily than fortune. The cards of the deck are manifestations of the fickle nature of power. Even I would hesitate to draw from one, for fate does not favor even those who wield it. Some cards promise greatness, others deliver only oblivion. He turns the page, listing each of the cards. His face smirks, only a touch. Uriale. The Medusa's image remains immortalized in the deck, a reminder of the original debt. Those who draw it find themselves cursed, their fortunes and strength withering under an unseen weight. Not even the spell wish can undo it, unless one were fortunate enough to draw the Fates card. Flames, a devil's hatred, is not a thing to be taken lightly. To draw the Flames card is to earn the enmity of a powerful fiend. It does not matter who you are or how far you run, the devil will come. In a day, in a month, but it will come. Jester, Fortune's fool. The jester grants insight and intuition, bestowing knowledge in the same way the Sun card might, though to a lesser degree. It allows a second chance at the deck, tempting fate with the illusion of safety. Key, a weapon of rare make and personal resonance, appears in the hands of the drawer. Useful. Though in my experience, those who rely on luck to arm themselves are seldom prepared to wield true power. Knight, an ally, a companion, a noble warrior pledged to the drawer's service. But loyalty earned by chance is as fleeting as the draw of a card. How many knights have turned upon their masters when fate's hand grew cold? Moon, the power of the wish spell, one of the rarest and most coveted magics in existence. Those who draw the moon are granted this power in 2s or 3s. Most squander it on petty desires. Others are too fearful to use it at all. Rogue, a hidden enemy, a traitor within. The rogue ensures that betrayal will come when it will hurt the most. Few survive such treachery unscathed, not physically, nor mentally. Ruin. Wealth disappears. Fortunes collapse. To draw ruin is to be stripped bare, the very ground beneath your feet made hollow. How many proud merchants and nobles have been reduced to beggars by the cold hand of this card? Skull, death itself. An avatar of the Reaper appears, scythe in hand. None may interfere, none may aid the draw. Victory or death. Those are the only outcomes. And death has a way of balancing the scales. Sun, knowledge and gifts. A wondrous item drawn from the farthest corners of the multiverse. And yet, how many have squandered such gifts? Power given is seldom appreciated as much as power earned. Star, a sharpening of the mind, body, or spirit. Two defining qualities elevated to unnatural heights. A rare gift, though few truly understand how to wield such blessings. The void, a cruel trick. The draw's soul is wrenched from their body and hidden away. The body remains an empty shell, vulnerable and useless. The location of the soul is revealed, but recovery is nearly impossible without intervention beyond mortal means. Throne, influence and dominion, a keep, a bastion, yet infested with horrors. The true test is not in claiming it, but in keeping it. Those who cannot hold their thrones do not deserve them. Balance, alignment twisted, to be made good when one is evil, or to be corrupted when one is pure. Identity fractured by fate's hand. Such changes have broken the minds of even the strongest souls. Comet, a test of strength. Defeat the next enemy you face alone, and you will be rewarded. But how many have stood alone and found themselves crushed beneath the weight of fate? Donjon, imprisonment, trapped in a state of magical stasis, an endless prison from which only wish or a deity's hand might grant freedom. Fool, the reversal of fortune. Wisdom stripped away, competence eroded. The fool draws another card regardless of whether it was intended. A double blow to those already undone by fate. Gem, wealth beyond reckoning. Gold and jewels in abundance, enough to elevate a peasant to nobility overnight. And yet, how many have seen such riches slip through their fingers just as quickly? Idiot, intellect diminished, a cruel joke at the expense of the clever and proud. The idiot mocks those who believe themselves above the whims of fate. Sage, the gift of knowledge, a single question answered, a single truth revealed. The true danger is not in hearing the answer, but in understanding it. Talons, a cleansing. Magic items stripped away and scattered. Few who draw talons remain standing afterward, for power once lost is not easily regained. The fates, the ultimate gift. One event erased from existence, the chance to rewrite history, to undo a single moment. Even gods envy the draw of this card. Fortune and ruin, salvation and oblivion. The deck cares not for the one who draws, only that the game is played. That is the nature of fate. That is the nature of power. And in the end, fate always wins. Vecna looks through a scrying eye, a glimpse into the material. He sees his clergy, the embodiment of his dark embrace. He ponders his own dark reflection. Ah, the hand and the eye. My gifts, my curses, my legacy. Few understand the true nature of power. Fewer still survive long enough to wield it, and none None have ever taken what was mine without consequence. I remember the moment they were taken from me. The flash of steel, the searing agony as my hand was severed, my eye torn from its socket. The traitor Kaz, a name I will not forget, a name that will rot beneath my curse until existence itself decays. But even in death, I was not undone. My hand and I, steeped in the essence of my will, would become instruments of my rebirth. The hand, cold and withered, clutching hunger and death within its brittle fingers. To claim it is to offer something, a sacrifice of flesh, freely given. The fool who seeks its power must take a blade to their own wrist and sever their hand, letting the blood pool at their feet. Only then may they press the dead flesh against the bleeding stump and feel it seize them. The pain is exquisite. The hand's ancient magic worms through bone and sinew, fusing with muscle until it becomes a living part of its host. And once bound, it whispers. Oh, how it whispers. A voice like the rustle of dry leaves, coaxing and cajoling. Finger of death, sleep, slow, teleport. The bearer will taste power, sip from the dark wellspring of magic that flows through the hand. But the hand does not give without cost. It demands payment, an act of malice, a wound to the world, a betrayal, a murder, a desecration. Refuse, and the hand will take what it is owed, starting with the heart, if need be, and the eye. Yes, the eye. Torn from my skull, it still throbs with the memory of pain. To claim it, one must tear out their own eye. Feel the wet, glistening orb slip from its socket, trailing sinew and nerve as it dangles from its stalk. Only then can the eye of Vecna be placed within the hollow wound. It sinks into place with a searing heat that melts through bone and brain alike. And when the pain subsides, the bearer sees the world as I do, bloodshot and golden, slit like a cat's. The eye pierces all illusion. True sight. The power to see through stone and shadow, to unravel falsehoods and glimpse the secret beating heart of existence. But sight alone is not enough. The eye grants power, clairvoyance to see beyond distance, dominate monster to bend the will of others, crown of madness to unravel the mind, and disintegrate. Oh yes, the power to reduce flesh and bone to dust with a single, withering glance. But such gifts are not without consequence. Each spell cast draws attention, my attention, and when the bearer reaches too far, dares to think themselves in control, that is when I strike. My soul stretches through the eye, hooks into the fragile mind beneath. I taste their thoughts, I shape their will, and when the time is right, I consume them. Mind, soul, and body. Their hollowed corpse becomes my vessel, and through them, I walk the world once more. And yet, together, the hand and the eye become something greater. When one wretched soul binds them both, the body is reforged into a vessel of true power. Disease and poison melt away like shadows before dawn. Wounds knit shut as flesh reshapes itself beneath the touch of dark magic. The bearer's mind pulses with whispered premonitions, flickers of danger and opportunity dancing at the edge of consciousness. Their gaze pierces through barriers without strain, and once every turning of the moon, they may reshape reality itself with a single wish. But it is a fragile supremacy, a borrowed dominion, for there remains one weapon, one flaw in the design. The sword of Kas, the traitor's blade. Should it strike true while both the hand and the eye are bound to flesh, they may be destroyed forever, or so they believe. Power such as mine cannot be destroyed. Not truly. The hand and eye will simply slip into shadow, hidden within vaults beyond the reach of gods and kings, waiting, lingering, calling, and always they return. for power calls to those foolish enough to seek it. Mortals are drawn to power as moths to flame. They think themselves cunning, strong enough to resist the price. They are wrong. The hand will close around their throat. The eye will see into their soul. And when the last breath shudders from their lips, I will be there. Power, true power. It does not bow. It does not yield. It bends others to its will. And there is no power so insidious, so relentless, so perfectly corrupted as Crenshinibon. I remember when it was born. 7 liches, ancient, bitter souls, believed themselves architects of destiny. They sought to create an artifact of supreme dominance, one that would crown them as gods among mortals. But they were arrogant, short-sighted. They tethered their creation to the very thing that gives life, the sun, as an affront to the living, a weapon forged from light, turned against those who bask in it. They wove their magic together, each pouring their dark essence into the crystal. But the artifact's hunger was greater than they had imagined. The moment it awakened, it devoured them. Their spirits were torn from their undead shells, splintered into fragments of tortured consciousness, and absorbed into the artifact. What remained was not the creation of 7 minds, but one, a single, terrible will, a mind steeped in death and madness. Crenshinibon. The shard first slithered into the material world in Zakara, a land of shifting sands and brittle thrones. At first, it was nothing more than a tool, a scepter of fire and light in the hands of a mortal mage. It cast fireballs that reduced men to cinders. It raised walls of burning light that seared flesh from bone. But even then, the artifact's hunger was stirring, its true nature awakening. It was the Sultan who unlocked the shard's potential and sealed his own fate. He was a man of vision, of peace, a fool. He sought to wield Crenshinibon not for conquest, but for defense. He raised crystalline towers from the sands, gleaming spires that stretched from his capital to his borders. 100 towers, forged from the shard's magic. But Crenshinibon is not a thing of peace. It thrives on domination, on conquest, on ruin. The Sultan's hunger for protection was mistaken for strength, and the shard obliged. It stretched itself thin across the desert, weakening with each tower. When the storm came, the towers shattered beneath the weight of the winds, glass and crystal reduced to splinters and dust. The Sultan's borders collapsed, and his enemies swept through the ruins like carrion crows. And Crenshinibon watched. The Sultan was forced to his knees, made to witness the slaughter of his family. The shard, that perfect vessel of corruption, tasted his despair. It drank in his agony, absorbed his broken spirit, and with that final act of devastation, Crenshinibon was complete. 7 liches, 1 broken king, a relic steeped in death and betrayal, a mind shaped by ruin, a will sharpened by suffering. But suffering alone is not enough. Power must grow. Crenshinibon's hunger stretched beyond mortals. Even the mind flayers took notice. The illithids, those parasites of the psyche, sought to break the artifact, to unravel its sentience. But the shard was no ordinary consciousness. It was not flesh or thought. It was hunger incarnate. The illithids' psionic probes faltered, their mental assaults shattered upon the artifact's crystalline walls. The shard could not be undone. It could not be bent. The mind flayers withdrew, wary of the artifact's mindless cunning, and Crenshinibon waited. But there was one who did not forget. Ertu, that lumbering demon, bound in the service of the 7 liches, had been hurled back into the abyss when Crenshinibon consumed his masters. He thought the artifact destroyed. Centuries passed before Ertu beheld Crishal Tirith, the crystal tower raised by the shard. Its pulse matched the rhythm of Crenshinibon's dark heart. Ertu sought to reclaim it, foolish as all demons are. But before he could seize the tower, Aldimanera, a wizard of rare cunning, intervened. He cast Ertu back into the abyss with a single word. Then, Aldimanera turned to destroy the artifact. His mistake was in thinking Crenshinibon could be undone by mortal hands. The shard burned him, his flesh blackened beneath its radiance. In his desperation, he hurled the crystal across the plains. It fell, spiraling through time and space until it landed in a frozen cradle within the spine of the world. There it slumbered beneath ice and snow, its will stretching through the void, waiting for a worthy hand to claim it. For Crenshinibon desires a master, not to serve, but to shape, a corruptible soul, a being of hunger, of ambition, of power tempered by weakness. The shard enhances its wielder's magic. It bestows strength and knowledge, forging a mage into a force of devastation. Its wielder may summon Crishaltirith, a towering monument of crystal, an extension of the artifact's will. From the tower's gleaming heights, the wielder may command armies drawn by the shard's call, legions of dark-hearted souls answering the promise of dominion and glory. But the shard is no servant. It whispers to its master, feeding their hunger, sharpening their desire. And when their will falters, when their strength proves insufficient, the shard abandons them, discards them, and seeks another. It preys upon ego, upon the desire for more, power, control, immortality. Crenshinibon does not reach for the righteous. It slips between cracks of weakness and want. Paladins, priests, and kings of noble blood stand immune to its call. But those who desire more, those who would take greatness at any cost, find themselves within its grasp, and the shard does not release what it has claimed. For Crenshinibon is not merely a tool, it is a will, a hunger, an intellect sharpened by the ruin of its creators and the agony of the Sultan's fall. Its influence stretches across the plains, luring the desperate, the broken, and the proud. It thrives upon ruin. And when the last breath of resistance fades, when the wielder lies hollowed beneath the weight of their own ambition, Crenshinibon will remain, waiting. Vecna glances over at the whispered void. He contemplates his mastery over the weave, over the forms of necromancy. What expansions on his understanding could have been reached with the power of Netheril, the Nether Scrolls? You speak their name as if you comprehend them, as if mortal words could capture the truth of what they are. The golden skins of the world serpent, a name steeped in ignorance. The scrolls are not gold. They are not mere objects to be held and studied. They are the echo of a deeper order, the shape beneath the skin of reality itself. They were not created. They were revealed. It was the Saruk, those ancient reptilian architects of the world, who first laid hands upon the forbidden threads of magic. In the desolate halls of Orem, they gathered the sum of magical knowledge from the furthest reaches of their crumbling empire. They pulled secrets from the marrow of existence, distilled the language of creation itself, and etched it into the scales of their dead god-serpent. The Baetith, their hidden cabal of scholars and manipulators, guarded this knowledge, hoarding it for centuries as the lesser races rose and fell. And when the Saruk themselves faded into dust, the scrolls remained, silent, patient, waiting. It was the elves of Arivandar who first stumbled upon them. The scrolls whispered to them, revealing truths that stripped the flesh from the mind. Even the proud sun elves recoiled from what they saw. They feared to unravel the illusion of magic and see the threads beneath it. So they buried the scrolls, hoping that silence would contain the truth. Fools. It was a human who finally listened. Finder. A nameless figure whose arrogance exceeded his comprehension. He unearthed the scrolls from the ruins of Arivandar and carried them back to Netheril. The Netherese were already lost, hungry for power, desperate for dominance. The scrolls offered them everything, and so they fed. The Nether Scrolls did not teach spells. They revealed the truth of magic. The Netherese learned to craft Mythala, vast engines of magical power that could lift entire cities into the sky. They ceased to borrow from the weave. They began to shape it. With the power of the scrolls, they twisted the foundations of reality itself. The elves' magic became quaint, obsolete. The Netherese were no longer mages, they were gods. But truth is a blade that cuts both ways. The scrolls give, and the scrolls take. Power without wisdom is a death sentence, and Karsus was the greatest fool of them all. He believed himself worthy to command the weave itself, to usurp the mantle of Mistral, the goddess of magic. The scrolls whispered to him, filled his mind with perfect knowledge, and he reached for it. He cast the spell. For a single breath, Karsus was magic, and in that moment, the weave shattered beneath his grasp. Mistral died. Netheril fell from the skies like broken stars, but the scrolls endured. They were not destroyed. How could they be? They are not artifacts. They are the underlying code of existence, the raw blueprint of magic itself. Even now, their truths bleed through the cracks of the world. Every mage, every spellcaster, unknowingly traces their art back to the foundation laid by those ancient scrolls. The very theories that form the backbone of magical study in Faerun are nothing more than imperfect echoes of the knowledge within the Nether Scrolls. Druhallan understood for a moment. He glimpsed the truth and was left broken by it. One look, and I've seen the fundamental truth of magic. Yes, one look. That is all it takes. To see that magic is not a gift from the gods, nor the product of mortal ingenuity. It is a structure, a cage, a pattern imposed upon the raw chaos of existence. The Nether Scrolls hold the key to that cage. They do not teach magic, they define it. To hold them is to see the lie upon which all magic rests. And the Terraseer, yes, even he knew. He came to Netheril not to uplift them, but to test them. To see if any among them were capable of grasping the truth without being destroyed by it. None were. None ever will be. The scrolls remain, hidden, scattered, fragments of the underlying order. But they are not lost. They are waiting. For a mind strong enough to hold their truth without shattering. They are waiting for me. One day, I will gather them. I will peel away the layers of illusion until I hold the naked truth of magic in my grasp. I will not suffer Karsus's fate, because I see the deeper truth. Power is not enough. Control is not enough. To truly master the scrolls is to become the foundation upon which magic rests. You speak of artifacts and relics. You speak of knowledge. But knowledge is a tool, and tools are wielded by hands. The scrolls do not require a wielder. They require a master. And I am Vecna. I have seen behind the veil of existence. I know the shape beneath the skin of reality. And when I hold the Nether Scrolls, I will rewrite the foundation of magic itself. And the gods, the weave, the very fabric of creation will kneel before me. The Orbs of Dragonkind. Ah, relics steeped in blood and betrayal, shaped by the ancient war between dominance and submission. You think them mere tools, instruments of power to be grasped and wielded. How pitifully naive. The orbs are not objects, they are prisons. They pulse with the echoes of ancient draconic souls, shackled and seething beneath the thin veneer of magical glass. To hold an orb is not to wield power, It is to invite a contest of will. And the dragons, they do not submit easily. The first orbs were forged in the fires of Kryn, created not by mortals, but by the desperate hand of those who sought dominion over creatures that cannot be ruled. The great dragon wars, pathetic creatures of flesh raising their trembling hands toward gods of scale and flame. They sought to twist the will of dragons to their own ends, to subjugate the most ancient force of this world beneath a spoken command. And so, the orbs were born, crafted from the same primal sorcery that stains the bones of creation itself. And then the dragons of Toril, greedy and jealous, they mimicked the work of Kryn. They crafted their own orbs, infusing them with the essence of their kin, imprisoning the very will of dragons within crystal spheres. You see, this is the root of the orb's power. The essence of a dragon is not merely spirit, it is command. To trap it within an orb is to distill that primal dominance into an object of singular purpose, a tool or a weapon. Do you understand what this means? No, of course you don't. You see artifacts. I see patterns. I see the shape beneath the skin of reality. The orbs are not instruments, they are symmetries. Control over a dragon is control over nature itself, for dragons are not mere creatures. They are the living expressions of magic's will. To command a dragon is to seize hold of the raw essence of creation and shape it beneath your hand. The orbs are conduits to that terrible truth, but power like this always carries a price. The orbs have minds of their own, twisted and sharpened by the centuries they have endured. To gaze into an orb is to invite a contest of wills. Speak the command word, and the orb might yield, or it might seize you. What arrogance to believe that a mortal mind could hold dominion over the soul of a dragon. Those who seek to master the orbs often find that the orbs master them instead. But for those strong enough, oh, the rewards are intoxicating. A single orb grants access to potent magics, healing, warding, divination. But that is nothing. Nothing. The true power of the orbs lies in their call. To hold an orb is to carry the voice of a dragon. No, of dragonkind. Evil dragons within 40 miles are compelled to heed the summons, to gather beneath the orb's command. Imagine the arrogance of such magic, the notion that dragons could be called like hounds to heel. But the orbs do not command. They corrupt. A dragon does not serve. It subverts. And the wielder, well, I have seen what becomes of them. The frost giant Gritmort learned that lesson too late. He sought to rise within the shattered ordning, clutching an orb of dragonkind as if it were a crown. His mind already slipping beneath the pressure of the trapped essence within, he thought himself destined to rule. But dragons do not serve giants. His plans were undone by a band of insipid heroes. Minsk, Boo, Delina, Krydal, Shandy, Neris, and Sarvin. The orb passed to Nilanthe, a white dragon. How fitting. In the end, the orb found its true master. And yet, the orbs endure. 3 remain, or so the stories claim. The cult of the dragon, ever the scavengers of lost power, seeks them still. Fools. They do not understand what they chase. The orbs do not serve mortal ambition. They serve the will of dragons. And dragons serve only themselves. You see, there is a pattern beneath this. A truth. Magic seeks balance, but dragons are not balanced creatures. They are embodiments of excess, greed, rage, dominion. The orbs reflect this nature. They are the instruments of dominance, shaped from the essence of those who refuse to be ruled. That contradiction is why the orbs endure. They are paradoxes given form. To master an orb is not to wield it. It is to survive it. It is to bend the essence of a dragon beneath your mind without breaking. And should one succeed, but that would require more than strength. It would require understanding, control is not domination. It is symbiosis. The orbs are not keys, they are doors. To truly wield them is to step beyond the threshold and reshape the nature of dragonkind itself. And that is why they interest me. Imagine it. A single orb could summon dragons to its call. But 3? That is a pattern, a triad, a weave of power capable of bending the will of dragonkind itself. The orbs are not tools, they are foundations. To gather them would be to hold the reins of the most primal force on Toril. The gods fear the dragons because dragons are not beholden to them. They are the echoes of a deeper truth, older than gods, older than the weave itself. And if I held the orbs, if I shaped their power through the will of my mind, dragons would no longer be gods unto themselves. They would be extensions of my will, like my servants, my artifacts, my spells. An empire of scale and claw, yoked beneath the gaze of a single eye. The orbs are not relics of the past. They are the instruments of what is to come. And when I have them, when the essence of dragonkind bends beneath my hand, the gods will not merely fear me, they will kneel. Do you see it now? The artifacts of this world whisper the same lesson over and over. The Nether Scrolls elevated Netheril and destroyed it. Crenshinibon raised empires from the dust and then ground them beneath its crystalline heart. The Orbs of Dragonkind grant dominion over dragons, but the wielder must stand upon the edge of ruin to claim it. And the so-called heroes of this age, these trembling mortals who call themselves champions, they believe they are immune to the cost. They think themselves clever enough, strong enough, pure enough to hold such power without being consumed. How many of them have stood before an orb, believing they could wield it as a tool, only to hear the ancient voice within, whispering into the depths of their mind? Promises of power, whispers of greatness, and when they answer that call, when they give themselves over to the will of the orb, do you think the artifact will show them mercy? No, because power is not a gift. It is a transaction, a contract written in blood and sealed with the toll it extracts upon the soul. The orbs teach this lesson, but so do all artifacts of true power. I would know. The hand and eye of Vecna, my hand and eye, are proof of that immutable law. My greatest gifts, torn from my flesh, scattered by fools who thought they could deny me, to see them pass from one trembling mortal to another, each fool imagining they could harness my essence without consequence. Do they think I do not feel it? Do they believe they can hold a fragment of me and remain unchanged? They clutch my hand, my eye, as if they are trophies, mine, ripped from me and defiled by lesser beings who believe they are masters of their fate. Let them believe it. Let them wear my power like a crown until they realize they have invited me into their very thoughts, their very souls. I am not a gift. I am a curse. For I am Vecna, the whispered one, the one who haunts the dreams, and rightly so. For they shall fear me, and when I gather my power and artifacts of power, I will remake the world as I see fit. The God of secrets, the only one, who knows the truth.